Hello, this is Miss Pac-Man, and I am running it in MAME 2.6 or 0.262, which is a fairly recent version. I haven't bothered updating recently, and I'm just playing it on a keyboard right now, which is dumb, but I'm mostly recording this, well, because I don't have time to record anything longer, but also because today I was messing around with this shader. You see this distortion, which is meant to emulate, like if you had recorded this on an old VHS cassette tape that is now a little worn out. So you get these bursts of static and these crawling distortion scan things all over it and stuff. I just think it's kind of fun. It's pretty well done. It's called VHSPro, and I first saw it in I downloaded a new version of the multi-machine emulator called ReShade today, which I only have one game set up to use for, which is Mr. Do for the Super Nintendo. Because ReShade is pretty good at Super Nintendo stuff, and Mr. Do is the only Super Nintendo game I currently sort of have queued up to be ready to play whenever. Because that's the only sort of relatively accurate port of Mr. Do that I could buy, basically. Anyway, ReShade, I don't think I had noticed that it had all these shaders before. I don't know if that's a new feature that ReShade added, but anyway, there's a ton of shaders in ReShade now, and I was just kind of flipping through them, and I found a couple I like. One is this one, VHSPro, and the other is, what was the other one? The other one... Oh yeah, it was called Retro-Palettes, as in color palettes, and it's kind of neat because, like for Mr. Do, it sort of reduces the number of visible colors, so it looks, so like it takes the sort of Mr. Do's backgrounds they'll have like sort of subtle stripes or little patterns on them or something in the ground that you're digging through in that game. But when you apply this Retro-Palettes shader to it in ReShade, it reduces the number of colors that are visible. So like the background, if it's this sort of green with sort of little short stripes across it, lighter green stripes, sort of giving it sort of a grass look, that'll just get reduced to a single flat, bright green. And so it looks like, it kind of looks like it turns it from a 16-bit game to an 8-bit game, like a NES game, which I kind of like because I kind of like the NES more than the 16-bit consoles. I think that's why I like that one. So it's kind of like there's a port, an 8-bit port of Mr. Do that's actually fairly arcade accurate all of a sudden, but it's just the Super Nintendo port. Which does have a fair amount of slowdown, of course. But not as much as an NES version of Mr. Do would have. And then there's this shader, which is just kind of like a time warp. This is kind of fun. Like, it makes me, I guess a lot of it is nostalgia because I'm thinking of like, you know, when I was a kid and we, of course, had a VHS machine, and my twin brother would sit there playing games, but he would also have on a monitor next to it, he would have that was hooked up to the VHS player. He would have a tape of something that he had recorded, like he would record Saturday morning cartoons and then play those back, or like movies that were on TV at night. He would play back while he was also playing games on the monitor next to it. That's kind of what this makes me think of. Because, of course, the tapes he would watch over and over, and they would get a little worn down, and you would start to see little stuff like this. Uh-oh. Oh, I made it. Can I get the pretzel? Yes! Tasty, salty. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I'm gonna have salty tears. So I guess that's why I like this shader. Now this is running in this isn't Ari's, this is MAME. So I installed ReShade, and I guess you can't see this interface, but ReShade you bring down with the home key once you've installed it to something, and so you can just turn off whatever shader you want to turn off. So for instance, that's when you turn it off, it just looks like that. When you turn it on, it looks like this, and you can mess with various parameters. In fact, hang on. You can, let's see. Oh, it doesn't run very well when you've paused the thing. Arg! You can turn on these you can turn on all kinds of like fisheye distortion and stuff, film grain. But there's a couple, you can turn on these big, huge, like if your tape was getting really bad, what are those called? Oh, horizontal twitch and vertical twitch. Uh-oh, I never combined the two. So, let's see how this goes. Ah! Oh man, this tape is in bad shape. No. You probably wouldn't want to turn on both of these at once. You probably wouldn't want to turn on either one, because it would make it a little hard to see what's going on. Like this. Wow. This kind of rules, so. I don't know like how much slowdown or like input lag this kind of thing might add. There are definitely some shaders that I was messing with where, you know, you enable enough effects and you're getting some slowdown. Oh man, I couldn't see where the cherry was. But yeah, I would not normally run it with this level of distortion. Let me go ahead and turn those back off. You can also lower the amount of distortion even more than just taking those things off. Okay. You could like turn off the interlacing simulation or the various types of noise, the tape noise. Let's see what that does when I turn that off. Less jittery. There's line noise I could turn off. There's signal noise I could turn off. And there's sliders where you can turn these things down. There's bleeding, which is kind of a blurriness. If I turn that off, it's actually pretty sharp. But that sort of ruins a good chunk of the effect. So anyway, that's this kind of silly thing I'm doing here. I don't know if I would keep this on. I installed it for like, because I have various installations of MAME because I have certain games that require certain older versions of MAME, so I have to install those separately. So I installed, today I installed, oh my gosh, I have one dot and I'm failing. I installed ReShade to all of those and stuck this shader in, and I don't know. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Of course, you can turn it off. I don't think if you turned off all the shaders in ReShade that just having ReShade installed would add any input delay, but I have not actually tested that on my rough testing scheme. So I don't actually know that. Could be adding lag, and I would just be a chump. I mean, you know, does it add lag even when you have all the shaders turned off? It's also making me think, like, so because so I happened to find that there was this ReShade version of this shader that I found in Ari's, that I came across in Ari's, but there's no, I couldn't find like a ReShade version of that other shader that I found in Ari's that I liked, the retro palettes one. So it's making, so Ari's is a multi-machine emulator, and it can run stuff for just about any of the other home consoles I use. So I could use Ari's for emulating like NES and stuff, but last I looked, like, I don't use Ari's for NES, for instance, because the last time I looked, it didn't have the border control that Messen has, because NES games, they were not at all unified in terms of how big the borders on each side of the screen were. So some games have like almost no borders on any side of the screen, like Tetris, for instance, doesn't have much border going on anywhere. And then there are other games that have like a huge like top border or big side borders. And since I'm recording, I don't like to waste screen space on borders, because if I can chop that screen space off, then it'll be like a narrower video, and that'll play better. Oh my gosh, that fruit went right through me. In you know, in like portrait mode on a phone or something. And so I like to be able to take advantage of cutting off border areas in my recordings. And I don't think Ari's lets you do that like Messen does. And then, like, I use Mednafen for PC Engine and what little Genesis games I play, because I think those are still rated as having better emulation than Ari's for those particular consoles. There's a wiki, I forget what wiki it is, that has sort of tables showing, breaking down the compatibility of all the major emulators per console. I don't know, it's like Emulation Wiki or something, I don't remember what it is. But it seems to be pretty reliable based on just what little I know of these emulators. Has a pretty good breakdown of their features and that kind of stuff. Salty, tasty pretzel. Uh-oh. Oh no. I'm kind of amazed I didn't bite it right there. Shoot. Oh, no, I went through the ghost. I got so lucky. See, when I don't think about what I'm doing in Miss Pac-Man, I actually do better. Actually doing pretty well just with the keyboard, too. But the fact that I do better without thinking about it is, you know, Oh no, I went through that one too. I should have just kept going. You should always just keep going. I mean, the fact that I do better when I'm not thinking about what I'm doing in Miss Pac-Man, you know, that pretty much tells you how basic a player I am of Mrs. Pac-Man. Actually meant to turn an earlier corner there, but I failed to turn. I'll blame it on ReShade. I'm not gonna get that guy. Shoot. I shouldn't have gone for it so directly. I suppose it's like the probably main reason why I like that retro palettes shader on Mr. Do is because I don't really like the look of, oh no. Oh my gosh. I always thought I could get that at the beginning. I don't really like the look of Super Nintendo games, I guess. Or Genesis games, usually. It's just something about, I don't know. Just something about them that never really grabbed me compared to, say, NES, where I think I just liked kind of the basic, like NES, you could sort of count the number of colors that you had to deal with, so you kind of knew what the designer had to work with. I should have got the avocado. Oh, blorp. Well, I got a new high score, though. So that's cool. And, you know, like Genesis and Super Nintendo, they spent so much of their time trying to emulate arcade games, and they weren't quite fast enough to emulate arcade games for the most part, or they didn't have enough resolution or whatever, so it just never really, like, worked out for that, and I don't know, it was annoying. I liked it when designers actually had to do something from the ground up on the NES, because, you know, you couldn't just try to emulate an arcade game on the NES, really. Anyway, so that was just me playing Miss Pac-Man and trying this this silly ReShade shader, which is VHSPro. Actually, it's, let me read the, can open up the shader file in a text editor here, because it had an interesting comment in it. There we go, and I'll just load it from my MAME directory where I install it. At the top of the shader file, the f.fx file, which is a ReShade shader, it says VHS Pro by Vladimir, that's V-L-A-D-M-I-R, Vladimir Storm, ported by Marty McFly and Matt Silagi, updated for ReShade 4 Plus by Maro Satil, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and Baffo. And I'll put the link where I downloaded it from in the description under the video on YouTube. It's from I think it's from Baffo's GitHub, basically. I looked at Vladimir Storm, who I guess is the originator of this shader, and they seem to do, they have a YouTube channel, for instance. They seem to do a bunch of just FX work in general, you know, computer effects stuff. So I guess they kind of knew what they were doing, because this is a pretty cool looking shader, I think. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you later.